So the Pepper's ghost illusion. So this started out as a magic trick, and it started out as a stage illusion. And so here we have a stage, we have the audience, and what Pepper did is he had a hallway built on the stage. Then at the end of the hallway, he had a piece of glass, like so, and then he had a sort of hidden chamber here, where there was an actor. And what happened was the lights were off and the hallway looked like there was nothing in the hallway. Then you turn a light on the actor, the reflection on the glass would make it appear as if they were floating right here in the hallway. And he used it as a way to give the illusion of showing a ghost on the stage. And so this is like a really neat optical illusion, and so we use this in various different ways. So one place you may have seen it is in the news. So in the news they have a similar setup to this, where they have a piece of glass like this, and they have a screen like that, and then they have their camera here, and then the person's over here, and then they have their TV screen here, just like the person here is showing the text that the person's going to read. Then that text reflects off the glass, it projects it in space here, and then they can look into the camera and make it appear as if they're looking into the camera and saying stuff off the top of their head, but they're really reading it from the projection. And then there's like another form of this, which you see in live speaking, where they just have a piece of glass like this, maybe on a stand, and then the person is there speaking, and then down here they'll have a projector, and the projector will bounce off the glass and will create a projection there of the text the person can read. Another place this has been used is in concert venue. There was a famous where they brought like Tupac back to life or whatever, and so for that setup, they sort of had their similar thing here, only this would be the stage. They had a piece of glass on the stage, and they had a projector going into the glass and making the projection of the person. I've also seen it used in a similar kind of stage setup, but they had multiple, instead of having like the whole stage, they just had like different panes of glass on the stage, and then they could project into those, and they use it to tell ghost stories as well, which is kind of interesting. So, so this is a really cool illusion, but like, how does it work, and what exactly is going on here? So, let's zoom in on this a bit, I guess. So we have here our sort of image source, whatever that is. It could be that person in a box, could just be a TV screen, it could be a projector. We'll just keep calling it a screen, just to keep it simple here. So you have a TV screen, an LCD screen here. And then we place a piece of glass like so. And then we observe it from over here. And so what we see is what appears to be an image floating in space here. So what's going on? So the light is coming here out of the screen, and it passes through the glass, and then some of it bounces off the glass. And it will bounce off in this direction like this. And the light from here bounces off like so. The light from here bounces like this, and so on. And so what happens is, there's so much interesting stuff here. So, okay, so we have, let's finish this here. So we have, so what's going on here? We have the light and it's bouncing off and creating the projection here. And what you'll notice here is that the distance that the light travels to go from here to here, this is going to happen, it's going to come up, it's reflected off, and it's projected out into here. That distance is going to be the same as it is to go from here, bounce off, and come out to here. And that's going to be the same distance to go from here and come out to here, and so on. And so why we see the projection right here is because the light has an equal amount of time traveled here. And so the reflection appears as if it's floating there. So that's really cool. But what's interesting is that glass isn't one-dimensional, right? Glass has a thickness to it. And so what actually happens is you have this, you have your screen down here, and now we have the light coming from our screen, and this light here, it bounces off of here, but it also goes through here, and then it bounces off of here and comes out here, and so on. And so now what we have is actually two copies of the image. And because this piece of glass is further back than that one, then this projected image appears in space as if it's right here. And so what you end up having is, and this is what gives like the 3D-ness to the effect, is the thickness of the glass here. And so the thinner piece of glass you have, the less 3D effect you're going to have in the illusion, and the thicker piece of glass you have, the more 3D effect you're going to have. And now this is interesting. You can observe this too just by looking in a window and looking at a reflection. And based on the window, you'll see multiple reflections of yourself. If it's like a single piece of glass, you'll see two versions of yourself. If it's two pieces of glass, you'll see like 3 or 4, and so on. Now, what's interesting here is that the light, now a lot of time when this is described, it's said that it's reflected. But to me, it feels like it's more like it's polarized. Like this, like the piece of glass is acting like a polarization filter, and that it's only letting light at a certain angle get bounced around. Like it's a reflector, but it's also, there's some filtering going on here. Why is that important? So now this is important. It will come up later, because when you do this effect, you'll notice that you don't have to have the piece of glass exactly at 45 degrees. You can have it within a range of 45 degrees. And this has to do not with the reflective effect that we're seeing, but with the polarization effect, because of as long as the angle of the light is close enough, it's able to get it into this projection plane. And it might be something we can take advantage of in making a certain, like a VR display or whatever. Okay, so that's Pepper's Ghost, and that's what we understand of Pepper's Ghost and how it works. So, whew. So what can we do with this? So there's something you may see online where people will take their cell phones and they'll create this kind of illusion, take like a piece of plastic from a bottle or something and cut it. So I'm gonna have like the top of a bottle like this and set it on the screen, and then they can put stuff on the screen, and they can do this as well, and this will be curved, and then it works because it's curved, because the angle doesn't have to be perfectly correct. But it's also this angle here, the 45, doesn't have to be exact, but then also this other angle is probably easier to show in 3D here. And so here I have a crude 3D model of the same thing I've been showing here. So I've got the screen and the glass and the projection. And so, while the angle of the glass, you have some flexibility with it as well. The this angle this way as well, you have some flexibility as well. So you can put a curve in the glass this way, and it doesn't have to be exactly perpendicular to the screen. Because you can see people doing this with curved pieces of plastic on their cell phones. So okay, so what's really cool about this, maybe I'll draw it first. So let's draw that setup again. So we have the screen. Okay, right. So what we need to establish is, so with this illusion, you can view it from any orientation. So what does that mean? So in the way I've been showing it here, where we have the screen and the projection, and then the glass, and then the observer is here. You could also have it this way, and you can have the screen over here, and the glass here, and the projection here, and the person is still able to see it. And likewise, you can do it this way, and so on, as long as the person is looking at the projection. The orientation here doesn't matter. And so you can prove this to yourself by making that little phone version. You flip it upside down, it still works. So what we can do here is we have the screen with the glass and the projection plane. And so what I was thinking is, like, if you're trying to use this as like a VR experience, you want the thing to be all encompassing and surrounding you, right? And you can use this type of thing for like a screen that's directly in front of you, but you want it to be all around you. And so And so if I'm standing here looking at the projection, okay, well, I need something above me. And so what you can do is if you extend the piece of glass up this way, and then we add a screen here, then right here, we get a projection plane that's right directly above you. And so now you add the fact that you can, that because this has a sort of polarization effect, and that you can, it doesn't have to be exactly at 45 degrees, it doesn't have to be exactly perpendicular, and you can have a curve to it, and you could potentially have a dome, at the very least a half dome, here, and this is sort of a cross section of the half dome that you stand inside. And have a VR experience. So, right, so I say half dome because you have this issue of the screen here, and you needing to project onto this piece of glass. But if it's projector, then you can project here, and you can project over this way, and so you could have your dome, and then you have projectors here, giving you your projection planes this way. Then you have projectors here, and projectors over here, projecting on the top of the dome, just like the screens here. And so this one projects creates the ceiling above you, and then this would be for like the other angle. And so this is a potential advancement in this technology. This is really cool to see. Here's the glass, projection, a screen. And all you have to do, take the other one, the projection, the screen, the glass, line them up. Boop. You could stand right there inside. It'd be cool if it worked. Okay, so then one of the issues with this Pepper's Ghost technology is that this projection plane is only a flat plane, and like I mentioned before, with the thickness of the glass, that does give you a three-dimensional effect, but you can't really control the other image. For the 3D effect, it's just a doubling effect, a doubling of the depth. So it's more of an illusion of depth than depth itself. But right, but the problem being that we have the 2D plane, and so could you somehow get more depth in a system like this? So one way of doing that would be to set up a another piece of glass. Right, you set up another piece of glass here, set up another piece of glass here, and extend the screen this way. Of course, I go in all the different, but I've seen this on, there's a display like this that I've seen before at like CES and whatnot. But the problem with this approach for getting more depth is the glass, right? It blocks the light, and so the deeper depths, they don't look as nice. And then you have the other issue of projecting on, you have to sort of somehow bend the light up to project onto these pieces of glass. And so, like, the easier way than stacking them so close together to give you more the depth planes would be to just simply you have your screen and your glass, and then your screen and your glass, so they don't overlap. And that makes your projection problems a lot easier, but then you don't have as much, you got such a big depth gap in between here, that does that make it worth, like, having that depth detail. So one idea I had for dealing with this problem would be if, so like, let's try this again. So I'm the observer here, and we have our setup here. So we have 3 different depths. So 3 depths. And so I want to make an apple appear at this depth here. Well, that's easy. You just show it on this screen here, and it'll appear at this depth here. The same thing for these depths. But then if you want to make it appear at this depth here, could you just show it at 50% opacity here and 50% opacity here? And then, as long as it's scaled right, and you probably have an eye tracking issue, but if you were to correct and allow for all of that, could you then make it appear as if there's an object here? And then maybe if the opacity, if this one is darker and this one's lighter, then maybe it appears further up this way. And then we want it ball to appear here, and so this one's the brightest, but then this one is a little bit bright to bring it out this way. So this could be interesting. Now, Pepper's Ghost isn't the only projection technology. So another approach I've seen is with a smoke screen. So with a smoke screen, you just have a box down here that produces smoke in sort of a laminar flow here, and then you have a projector, maybe off axis down here, and that projector then projects the image onto the smoke, and then it appears at this depth. Now, if there's some way now you can, of course, make the smoke super thick and white, but you can also make it semi-transparent, right? And so then you can stack these up, have different depth planes, and so on. And then would this trick work?